It's February of 2022. On the news, we keep going back and forth about a mandate to take this pharmaceutical product. And thankfully, the pendulum has swung back on freedom. And I want to point out that medical freedom is more than just drugs, surgery, and this new substance that they want to inject up our arms. Early on in the pandemic, I had another fear related to medical freedom. You see, when I was a kid, I have high functioning autism. And when I was a kid, I really didn't take care of my body very well. And I ended up having all sorts of autism related problems. And I spent some time in a juvenile detention center. And while I was at the center, I wanted to avoid certain foods that would aggravate my autism. I was already starting to clean up my diet at the time. I had a lot of pushback, right? You don't really get to choose your food options there. Now, thankfully, after I got out, I cleaned up my diet and I haven't looked back. Now, the problem is that at the beginning of the pandemic, I watched the news, and in a lot of countries, they were quarantining people. And a lot of countries, especially my family's home in Taiwan, they took the pandemic very seriously. Now, I think in Taiwan, I talked to my family about this, they are much more open to the idea. I mean, they do practice traditional Chinese medicine. If you talk to the people who are enforcing the quarantine about dietary restrictions, I would imagine it's a little bit easier to take care of things there. But my big fear was that that would come to the United States. And if you didn't start the pandemic ill and you have some chronic condition like myself, you could end the quarantine a lot more ill than you started with, right? Especially for me. After 18 years of not consuming sugar, MSG, chemical additives, food colors, those things really aggravate my autism. I don't know what will happen if I consume them. And I consume them, I end up having all sorts of behavioral problems. I end up back in the detention center or back in jail. You know, when I was in jail and I mentioned dietary restrictions, people just thought I was even crazier, and they added time to they wanted to add more time to my sentence. And it's just a downhill spiral from there, right? And I had a big, massive fear of that. Now, in 2020, I made a New Year's resolution to normalize my relationship with food. Now, part of the way I did that was by doing intermittent fasting. And when I heard about these quarantine scares, it made me want to get even more aggressive with fasting, because I saw myself getting quarantined and fasting as almost a protest, a hunger strike. And that kind of helped me overcome my anxiety with getting locked up, because I really was afraid of that. I really thought that once I got locked up and had to consume junk food, that was it. It was a downward spiral from there. And I hope more. This is why I really preach about this subject, right? You would think, just eat healthy, it's no big deal. No, if the rest of society doesn't recognize my need to eat healthy, I'm always going to be at some kind of risk, right? What if I get into a car accident or incapacitated and can't really control what's going on, right? I can't imagine, if I put in my medical directive not to feed me these things, I still don't think we live in a society where that's going to be taken very seriously. And that's a problem in its own right, because you can't always trust that you'll be in control of your faculties, right?